I call the Honourable Amy Adams.
Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to come and take a call in this afternoon's urgent debate on the decision of the Chief Executive of Corrections to not renew the contract with Serco for the management of Mount Eden Correctional Facilities. And I just want to start my contribution this afternoon, first of all, by taking the opportunity to commend my colleague, the Honourable Paseta Sam Lotuiga. I think Sam has done an excellent job in his time in the portfolio over an incredibly difficult period, faced with some very real issues that most members in this House would find challenging. Sam has kept a level, calm approach to it and has every single day put what is best for the prisoners and the system at the forefront of his decision-making, and I know that Sam has thoroughly enjoyed his time in corrections, and I know that he will go on to be a strong and effective Minister of Local Government. Mr Speaker, I do think it's worth reflecting, though, on the fact that we're talking here about some of the most dangerous environments in New Zealand. We're talking about the most dangerous people confined against their will in prisons where, frankly, bad things have always happened and will always happen. And our corrections staff, whether they are private or public, actually, go in every day and face situations that most people in this House, I'd be surprised if any of them, had to face. They do it incredibly well. But if we're going to judge the success of the prison service by whether there are zero incidents, frankly, we're living in la-la land. These are very dangerous people. And in fact, Mr Speaker, I can tell you that the crime stats tell us that over recent years, what we've seen is a hardening almost of the people in the prisons as we've worked very hard to get low-level offenders out of the prison system and into community-based sentences. And what you're left with in prison, frankly, is the most serious people serving longer sentences for serious crimes. They are dangerous environments, and these debates have to be had in that context. And actually, when reviews are done into the system, that point is made clear. That actually the work done in prisons is very, very good. It's of a very high standard. And where incidents do happen, of course, they have to be looked at and considered and reported on. And the Minister has done absolutely the right thing, seeking assurances about the various issues that have come up. But, sir, the fact remains that we can't magic ourselves into thinking that these are preschools and tea parties. They are not. They are dangerous places, and incidents do occur. Mr Speaker, I have to kind of just comment for a moment on that sort of slightly xenophobic rant from New Zealand First about saying it's all about the fact that they're foreigners. Frankly, that's a load of rot. We've never taken a view of saying only New Zealanders can do anything well. Our approach has always been saying what will provide the most efficient and effective service for prisoners in New Zealand and therefore for the wider public. It's about making sure the public is safe and that when people are in prisons, they have the best chance of returning to productive lives. And frankly, if New Zealand First is going to take an approach of anyone who's a foreigner should just go home, well, that's something that they can take to the polls. I don't think that that's what New Zealanders would want. Mr Speaker, let me talk about the contract that's been the subject of this debate. This contract was signed in 2011 with a well-renowned international firm who are specialists in this area and who are also working with us with the Wiri South Auckland Correctional Facility and doing very well. And at the time the contract was put together, Mount Eden was a very different place. It was a very different place, and at the time the facility was predominantly sentenced prisoners with a small number of remandees in the facility. What has happened over time is that the operational reality of that prison has changed considerably to the point where it's now almost entirely remand prisoners. Now, for anyone who's not involved in the sector, why does that matter? Well, because with remand prisoners, you have people in prison who are there for very short periods of time. They are not adapted to the prison system. They are at their most angry, often their most violent, often they're going through withdrawal symptoms. There isn't the time to put them through treatment programs and recidivism reduction programs. And anyone who knows the sector will tell you that remand prisoners are the most difficult to manage for those reasons. Now, of course, so we have to deal with remand prisoners, and Mount Eden has become our primary remand facility, certainly in the North Island. But what that has meant is that the contract that was written in 2011 for what was fundamentally a sentenced prison facility. Now that we look at it in 2015 and what was likely to be needing in Mount Eden over the next 4 years, we know actually that we would want the contract framed differently. And actually, at the time the contract was written, the department at the time had the foresight to know that while the contract provided for up to 10 years, in actual fact, we might need to change how the system worked, and so this breakpoint was provided for exactly this reason, that we could sit here in 2015 and say, actually, is Mount Eden still operating the way it was in 2011? If not, there's an opportunity to stop that contract, come out, rethink how it works, and take it back out for another solution. That's exactly what the Chief Executive today has determined. I think it's absolutely the right decision. I think it's a decision, frankly, that would be highly likely to have happened regardless of the issues we've seen around fight clubs and the like and some of the allegations, because the nature of this prison has changed. And the whole reason for having a term like this in contracts is that so you can say, now that the prison is a different beast, let's write the contract for those terms, and that's exactly what's happening. Mr. Speaker, the interesting thing is, I just want to make one closing comment, because a lot of the debate has been on some sort of vilification of any sort of private involvement of prisons. Actually, I absolutely support the concept of PPPs in our prisons. I think it's a very good concept. And the interesting thing is this: assaults, fights, criminal behaviour happen in every prison in our system. Every prison in our system. There was a serious assault at Rimataka just the other day. What is the difference with a private prison? Well, with a private prison, we can hold them to account, terminate the contract, give them financial penalties. There is better accountability in a privately run prison than in any other prison in the system. And actually, that's a good thing. That means that now, when there is a serious issue, there is someone to hold to account, and if they're not delivering, they can be moved on. Now, that's working through its way with the Chief Inspector's report. Those decisions are for the Chief Inspector to comment on, but this issue of accountability is one that applies right across the prison estate, and for the first time, because of this government, because of this private provider system, we have the ability to hold them to account, which today the Chief Executive is doing, which is the right thing, which shows us that the system does provide greater accountability, does provide for opportunities to change if things aren't working, and allows us to renegotiate the terms when the system of the prison changes. Mr. Speaker, I can understand that these are issues of serious interest to the public, as they must be, but these are dangerous places. They're dangerous right across the system. Mount Eden is no different to any other prison in that regard, but the foresight of the contract drafters in 2011 has done exactly what we needed it to do, which was provide us an opportunity at this point to assess whether it was still what we needed going forward for this prison. It isn't, so the contract has been ended. I think it's absolutely the right decision.
I call